she's faked her own death. This was just after the situation where she was arrested for hitting me. Literally acted like she was a police officer. I actually contacted her mom and said, hey, your daughter is threatening these things. My name is Shannon. I am 42 years old from Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is Not Your Lawyer.
Welcome to another episode of Not Your Lawyer. I'm joined today by Shannon. Shannon, what is going on with you?
I think we're going to talk a little bit about a situation where I've gotten involved with someone who's kind of working on making my life living hell and understanding the best way to kind of get out of that.
Business partner or an ex?
An ex.
Okay, let's talk about it. How long did you guys date?
We met online and we dated for about 3.5 weeks before that I realized things were going to go and I would never be able to have this person kind of around my kids, so started ending things around then.
Was this a Match.com, eHarmony, or more of a Tinder situation?
It was Bumble, I believe, or Hinge, one of the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Slightly classier.
Yeah.
So you guys met, you exchanged some messages.
Yeah.
How long were you guys dating or going out?
We went out for 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
A little bit, maybe a little bit longer.
Okay.
The whole thing between where everything finally collapsed and the time we met was 2 months.
Very short period.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made a decision, you didn't want to be in this relationship anymore.
Correct.
Then what happens?
So we met, we had a good first date, and things seemed actually normal on the first date, and then after that it wasn't. Like we had an additional date where she met me out with some friends. I said hello to a friend's girlfriend, just like a side hug, and told her to say hi to our mutual friend together. And I could see like a little bit of the awkwardness come out. Like she stormed out of the building. This is the second date.
On the second date?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just like wondering how like I could do that, like not even like asking questions or understanding the situation. So
how many?
A red flag went up at that point, but yeah.
One red flag. How many dates total did you guys go on?
We hung out quite a bit during that period of time. We probably went out on, we probably saw each other just about every day for 3 weeks or so.
15, 20 times.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then tell me about how it ended.
So, in my part, where I was completely wrong here, and and I don't even know if she was or not, but where I was wrong was previous to that, I was dating someone and we met while I was dating. So I didn't totally engage with her, but it just like that relationship was just something that.
So you're dating someone else when you met.
Yes.
The issue. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were dating someone else, and then that's when you met. We'll call her Voldemort.
Okay.
Okay. So you felt bad about that, cheating, whatever. But tell me how the relationship with, the Voldemort, with the person that you've been dealing with, tell me how that ended.
So, I don't know how to.
Was there a fight or an argument? Was it over text? Was it in person?
So it was in person.
Okay.
There's a few text messages from me just saying, hey, this isn't going to work out. You're not someone that I'm going to be able to like have around my kids, and this, like just from a litany of things that had happened, and like just going out in public and just it being very awkward and just things happening that just wouldn't typically happen in a date.
Yep. So just tell me about, you told her, I don't want you to be in my life.
Correct.
And then what did she start doing?
She started holding me emotionally hostage. Like,
okay, let's talk about that.
I'm going to commit suicide.
Okay, there we go.
Love you. And then once I separated myself from that.
Was she sending you these messages like via text? Like, correct. I'm going to hurt myself? Okay.
Correct. Like and then she also would message me, like once I blocked her, she would message me from like just then really threatening messages towards like my kids and my family. And
let's break that down. What kind of messages towards your kids?
Like we had shared pictures back and forth together that she's going to send them to my kids' school, that she's going to send them to places in the community that I live in, to the CrossFit gym, to just different places that she knows that I frequent.
Threatening you.
Correct.
And so you blocked her, and now she's threatening you from other phone numbers and.
Correct. She has an app where she can, like, I can't block her because she can message me
How many different numbers do you think she's texted you from?
Probably 100 or more.
Wow. Over what period of time?
Over the last 2 years. She's still doing it now.
So
but during that one night when it happened, there was probably 10 or 12 numbers she texted me from.
In
over
one night?
2 or 3 days. Yeah.
Okay. So this happened 2 years ago.
Correct.
And it's still going on now.
Correct.
Okay. So you said there were pictures. I'm assuming these are nudes.
Yes.
Is it just you in it, or is it a sex act?
It was just me.
Okay. And you sent them to her consensually?
Correct.
Okay. And so she's threatening to send them to other people.
She already has. She sent them to other
She
people.
has sent your nudes to other people. Yeah. And who has she sent your nudes to? I'm sorry that I'm
multiple people.
You're in good shape though, at least.
Multiple people she sent them to. One being an ex of mine.
Okay. This is confirmed, like we have like screenshot or
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who else?
And just she actually admitted to sending them to her mother, which is
to her own mother.
Yeah.
Teach their own.
And I don't know who else she sent them to, but I would imagine just.
But at least two people.
Yes.
Okay. Correct. And the ex that she sent them to would help support you or show you this?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have proof that she's sending your nudes to other people.
Correct.
Proof that she's contacted you from 100 plus numbers. She threatened to hurt herself. You said she'd make kind of like threats around the kids. So just sending the nudes to the kids, she said that in writing?
Yeah, to their kids' school. I'll read it to you here in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get into the sending of the nudes. That's pretty serious. Right.
Right.
What other kind of behavior over the last 2 years has she exhibited?
She's like gone on to these websites and she's falsified documents. She's
talk about that. What kind of documents?
Well, so gosh, it's all just happened so much. Like, so the one night that she was arrested for attacking me, basically, she parked 10 houses down and walked to my house, and she'd been sending me messages that she was out front all night.
She was arrested?
She was arrested. She was
for attacking you?
Correct.
When was this?
This was September 29th of 2021.
Okay.
And we met August 13th of 2021. So that was kind of like the last night of, I think it was around August 13th.
What were the charges when she was arrested?
So that's the weird thing. Like, she just got charged with simple assault.
Okay. Have you been charged?
I was, but they were dismissed. So
okay. What were you charged with and when?
So I was charged with assault on a female.
Okay.
Which is kind of why I was going into that information about the Instagram piece.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of where that led.
Was this, you were charged before or after her 929 days?
After.
Okay.
After. So, she came.
And just one, I'm sorry. So you were charged with that and then they dropped the charges?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So she pled guilty to assault.
Okay.
And there's a 911 tape that I have. There's everything. Like, I basically put my hands behind my back and just let her wail on me as the police were coming. And then when the police showed up, she actually she ran up on this all happened at my ex-wife's house. My ex-wife was in Romania visiting her mother, and I was watching my kids, and she came to her house.
How old are your kids, by the way?
The kids that were there right now are 13 and 7.
Okay.
But they were 5 and 11 at the time.
Small kids.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Have you sued her, had a restraining order? Tell me about what you've done against her legally already.
So, actually, after that night where she attacked me, the next, like, I didn't really want to see her in trouble. I didn't know things were so bad until, like, after that happened, after the legal stuff. I didn't realize, I thought that maybe she was a little bit off her rocker a little bit, but I didn't realize how bad it was until...
Does she have a drug problem, any kind of a mental illness
diagnosis? So I didn't know about a drug problem until recently, and then just going to court for her probation hearing the other day, like, she has 4 or 5 cocaine violations on her, or 3 or 4 cocaine violations on her probation.
Just on her probation?
Just on her probation. Okay. I didn't know about any drugs prior. I mean, I assumed that she probably was based on talking to other people, but I never had seen her do drugs. I've seen her drink very heavily, like get up in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning and turn up a bottle of whiskey.
Oh, wow.
And she had talked to me about having relationships in the past that were abusive, that she used to drink a lot too.
Why do you think she fixated on you so much? Such a short period of dating, and now 2 years later, you're still dealing with this.
I don't know.
Okay.
She's an attractive person, and she could date anyone.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Didn't she win like a beauty pageant or something?
I don't know. She didn't win it, but she was for Miss, I believe.
Okay. What's the most recent thing that has happened with this?
Most recent thing that's happened is she contacted my older daughter in California with sending this message to her that was a complete fabrication lie. And she's under the impression that she's able just to talk to anyone and they're just going to be on her side.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the way it went down. My daughter sent me all the stuff. And
how old is this daughter?
She's 20.
Okay.
Yeah. And she sent me everything and said, this is what I'm getting from her. Well, actually, back up. I got a message from her 2 weeks before she sent that message and said, hey, is this the girl that was stalking you? She just liked one of my TikToks. And I said, yes, that's her. It's probably going to progress now. 2 weeks later, she gets a message from her that's a long, long message. And then her mom actually gets a message too, and they send them to me.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was this?
About a month ago.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still happening. So as of right now, you do not have an active restraining order.
So I had to file her probation officer, I thought, because the courts put her on 18 months probation for cyber stalking, because she actually went through a year of probation for the hitting me and thing. And then once that was over, we actually called a bit of a truce for a couple, we messaged each other. We were like, truce, I don't want anything to happen to you. Blah, blah, blah. And that for her, it was, I don't even know if it was a way for her to get back into a relationship with me or try to get back at me, because this is the point where my ex and I, the one that I told you that I cheated with, really had no idea it ever happened. But her and I were trying to work things out, and she had found out that and I were talking. And so they ended up connecting and talking. And this is where I found out how extensively crazy it is. Like, my ex was telling me that inside of her house, there's like binders of stuff about me. Like, she uses my own mouthwash. Like, she has my entire life like in front of her and what's gone on in my life. And
how old is she?
I believe she's 38, somewhere around there, between 37 and 39.
Okay.
I stopped keeping track. I think she was 37 when we met, so I would say she's 39 now.
What do you want here? What would your dream scenario be?
For her to just go away.
Disappear.
Honestly.
Okay.
Just go away. Like, I don't actually care to see anything bad happen to her. I don't care to see, but I can't get her to go away.
I'm going to tell you something, Shannon. So, we've been doing this for a couple months now. By the way, if you're watching, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you have a real legal issue, please reach out to us. We're trying to help as many people as we can. So I have had a couple people with domestic dispute, domestic violence situations reach out to me. I haven't agreed to have them on because when I talked to them, they had a lot of hate in their heart. It seemed very much he said, she said. When I heard your story and I talked to you about it, like the amount of calmness that you had, you took responsibility for stuff, even just right now when I said, like, what do you want? And you were like, if she could just not hurt me. You don't want to see her punished, right? You don't have any vengeance. I believe you. And these situations are tough, but I'm just saying, like, there's always more than two sides to the story, right? There's your version, her version, and then there's what the truth is.
Right.
But looking at the weight of everything that you've told me and then everything that I've seen already, I believe you. So for whatever that's worth, I believe you. I think the people that are watching this right now will believe you. I'm not a mental health professional, but it sounds like there's a lot of issues associated with borderline personality disorder and or maybe bipolar that she's dealing with,
which I take into account as well. As I'm working through how to deal with someone, it's like you take into account that's in play here for sure.
There's patterns though, especially like the obsession and not being able to let something go, how short you guys dated versus how long this is going on. And then when you add in drug use, especially something like coke that can have a degenerative effect as it's used over time. It's not a good situation for anyone, right? So let's kind of walk through what I've heard so far and what I think your options are, and then I'm going to get to some recommendations, okay?
Got it.
Because we got like three completely different legal situations we could talk about here. We could talk about a TRO. We could talk about additional stalking charges. I think that's probably part of my. You gave me new info about talking to the daughter that I didn't have, so now I'm reprioritizing this. And then the revenge porn thing is also federal claim.
So that's the problem, is like understanding there's a mental situation here is actually taking the steps to file felony charges against someone.
Yeah,
which is tough because
let's talk about that. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing to talk about. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a great point. So let's talk about how hard it is to kind of file criminal or civil charges against someone that's dealing with a mental illness, right? So again, and we don't know for sure. We're not sitting here with, a doctor's notes that this person's suffering from this. But whether you have a mental illness or not, I have a family member who has bipolar. So I have been involved with 25, maybe 30 hospitalizations. Okay. And I will say that even in that scenario where someone definitely has it, there are things that a person can do that make it more likely for them to go to the hospital or less likely for them to go to the hospital. Things that make it more likely for them to have a breakdown or less likely. So, if this lady is, doing cocaine, for example, that's something that's going to make the situation way worse if she has anything on that spectrum of conditions that we're talking about. So, is it ethical? Is it the good thing to file serious charges and maybe ruin someone's life? Okay. I would say in this scenario, the filing of the charges, based on everything that I'm looking at, is necessary, especially if you want to help the person. And that's going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but I'll explain why, okay? When you have someone who is as out of control as this person is, who is breaking the law, who is harassing, stalking, threatening self-harm, okay? It is abundantly clear to me that they are some level of a threat to others, but also a threat to themselves. Cool. So, you always hear stories, right? Not to take something that's at a level 3 and take it up to a 10, but people who commit estranged lover murders have this. It's usually men, but have this same type of pattern, right? Obsession breeds poisonings, car accidents, all kinds of things that could happen. So from protecting yourself, but more importantly, I think protecting your kids at this point, if she's reaching out to them, you have to raise the amount of eyeballs and the amount of attention that this has, because just you and her being the only two people that think about it clearly isn't working.
Right. There was a period where I wanted to keep it as far away from the people that I know as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's just bad. It's just the things that you get accused of. And
bring the mic a little closer.
It's just the things that you get that I'm being accused of, they're hard to explain, especially from a guy's perspective.
Yeah.
Because if you just met with her, she can come off very believable and put together until you talk to her for 15 minutes. It'll start to unwind for sure. But
what we have here are crimes. It is a crime to share someone's nudes without their permission. It is a crime to stalk, right? We also have less important crimes like libel, disparagement, right? I think that what I'm going to recommend here as the course of action here is we seriously look at pressing charges, filing charges, getting the evidence that you have together to raise the severity of it, okay? Now, you're out of North Carolina. I'm not licensed in North Carolina. As always on this show, I'm not your lawyer. This is for informational purposes. You're still going to go forward and deal with it. But if you're watching this at home and you're dealing with a similar situation, a person like this, you're not going to be able to reason with them. Logic is thrown out the window. 3 weeks, 4 weeks of dating, and 2 years later, the person's still obsessed. That's not logical. If you get into a situation where you're threatening them, I'll go to the police and I'll file. Perfect. You're playing their game. They're already threatening you. Now you both look bad. You have to document this evidence. You have to be above board. One of the things I want to commend you on, you're doing a great job of not reacting emotionally. It seems like you're processing this. You're being patient. You're even being gracious. Okay. You can always drop charges later. Right. If there's a settlement or a negotiation and she agrees to get treatment, for example, thinking through this, you might file charges. Now suddenly they're looking at a lot of time. And then you go, hey, I would agree to pull back the charges if there's a certain amount of treatment and a 3-year no contact or 4-year no contact, right? There's a lot of different things that you can do. I think you're past the point of civil claims really carrying a lot of weight.
Correct. But no
However,
contact is not working.
yes. However, there are civil suits that North Carolina has that I was able to look up available for revenge porn. North Carolina has its own civil statutes on that. And one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do with the help of a North Carolina attorney is to look at filing everything you can file. Remember, you can always drop, you can always dismiss, but right now you and I are talking,
Right.
and you have to go through your cell phone, you have to pull out, hundreds of emails and records. By working with an attorney to get each individual wrongdoing that she's done, civil and criminal, you get it documented, you get it filed. It's a little annoying. It might cost you a little bit of money, but the amount of time it's going to save in explaining to people what's happening, and then also when the judge for the criminal looks at the total weight of everything that's been laid out, they're going to go, oh, this is not he said, she said. This is she did, she said, he documented. And that's going to favor you. So,
and I have documented everything that everything that I'm explaining to you today.
yeah.
I have documentation and can show for sure.
And we're gonna go through
Yeah.
that as well, and I might be able to help you with a little bit of additional stuff off air. So let me give you kind of like a report card, okay?
Got it.
So, so crazy. This is a crazy story.
Yeah, we haven't even really dove into much of it, to be honest with you.
There's more. What are some of the crazy things we haven't talked about?
I mean, she's threatened. She's faked her own death. Literally acted like she was a police officer. I have the voicemail of her voiceover.
She faked her own death?
Yeah, that I got a call, messages that she was going to get in her vehicle and drive to Wilmington in a friend's truck and drive it off of a bridge. And then so I actually contacted her mom and said, "Hey, this is your daughter is threatening these things. Like I don't know what to."
When did she fake her own death?
This was just after the situation where she was arrested for hitting me.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
so she drives to.
And then how did she fake it? So she
drives to Wilmington, and then I get a text message from what was supposedly a cop saying that they found a letter next to her body that had my name and information on it, that she had died. And then I got a call with like this crazy voiceover, and so then I realized it wasn't true. like there wasn't anything actual. Like she was probably sitting on her couch, just emotionally holding me hostage.
Yeah.
And so I call down to Wilmington. They don't know who this police officer is, Officer Wilson. I message back and forth with them. I start to drive down that way just to go to the police station and say, look, I don't know what's going on, but this person's doing this right now. But then I start talking to the police department, and I start talking to multiple agencies there, and they've got no reports of anyone.
Sorry, man. This is the classic case of a girl faking her own death. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a lot to this that's just
okay. So she faked her own death. Mm-hmm. Impersonated a police officer. What any other highlights or lowlights?
So she's also defaming me online. She's hired this PI that's not really a PI.
Okay.
To go and meet with my exes and people, and just kind of and they gave like a story of our past relationship because they had them believing that I had been abusing this woman. And I'll get to the part where she accused me of abusing her.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I was going with that Instagram conversation. So at that point is when I actually I had no intention of showing up to court when she originally assaulted me. I was just going to let it go until she started the faking her own death and reaching out to my family and people around me. And then I said, I have to go to court.
Yeah.
And so that's when she pled guilty in court that day. As soon as she pled guilty in court, she left that day, went down to the magistrate and filed a restraining order against me and said that I assaulted her.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so soon as she did that, we had to go to court for that. Mm-hmm. Well, I went back down and filed my own restraining order against her. We had the trial. She was found to be uncredible. She had to actually pay for my attorney fees because the evidence was rolled out in court there, and she had to pay for my attorney fees. The judge said that she was not found credible. Actually could probably see some mental things going on in that case, in that conversation as well. And I have a copy of that hearing as well.
Yeah.
But so that, and then she put a tracker on my vehicle. So
Oh, wow.
like a actual tracker.
You found it?
Yeah. So I was told by my ex that there was a tracker on the vehicle. She was telling her where I was every day, like where I was traveling to, that just the craziest things. So the next charges that I filed on her were that she's in court for now on an additional, her probation now is for cyber stalking, and violating that restraining
Good. That's
order.
where I was going with this. Yeah. Good.
So I've still held back, and I've actually begged, and I've sent an email. She'll claim that I email her parents. I actually emailed her parents and said, can you please have her stop, or I'm going to file these charges against her.
Yeah.
I just need her to stop.
I think you've reached a point where you have to file everything you have the ability to file, and then you can negotiate reducing stuff later. But, you know, this is a crazy story. I can't even imagine the stress of going through it for as long as you've gone through.
She had my ex-girlfriend thinking that I was wanted by the FBI, that I was some like crazy, insane person, scared her to death, actually.
Yeah.
To the point where my ex was like, I don't know the man that you're speaking about. And then her story started to unravel. It wasn't making sense because my ex didn't know me, right? We had been together for a while, and the things that she started saying weren't making sense. So she started to check a little bit deeper into it. And that's when she actually reached out to me and said, hey, can we talk? Because I'm hearing some things, and this is what's going on, and they're not making sense. And then once I actually clued her, I held everything back from her because it had happened in that with going to court, and I just opened up all the evidence to my ex-girlfriend, and she said, wow, like this is not what was explained to me.
It's a tough situation that you're going through. I do see kind of a light at the end of the tunnel here. She has gone down. She's crossed so many lines that it's pretty clear to me. I think it'll be pretty clear to a judge who is the wrong party and who is the victim here. And you're the victim. And it's weird in our society, right? You don't look like a victim.
Right. That's the problem.
I
do not.
You don't.
Yeah.
You probably, honestly, have a hard time even saying I'm a victim. Like, it's a hard thing for you to get around. Like,
it was in the beginning until it's actually settled in that this, like, it was very hard for me to say that in the beginning. It's not anymore.
One of the things in this type of scenario is you have to acknowledge it, and then you have to take the steps to protect yourself and protect your family. And so I'm proud of you for doing that. I'm proud of you for telling your story. It's a hard story. There's a lot of emotions in it.
There's a lot.
You seem like a good guy, and I'm hoping that things really turn around for you with this situation. Okay?
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Shannon. You're watching at home. You want your story to be covered. You'd like to talk to an attorney. Reach out to us, notyourlawyer.law, or the number below. Until next time, always remember, I'm not your lawyer.